The iron shackle bit into her wrist. Blood mixed with dust on her cracked lips. 17 years old and chained to a fence post like an animal, Mary Hale had stopped counting the hours since her stepfather left her there to die. The desert sun was killing her slow. She whispered to the empty sky, "I beg you, just make it quick." Then hooves pounded the hardpan. A shadow fell across her face. And everything changed. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because this story goes places you won't believe. Comment below with your city so I can see how far Mary's story reaches. Now, let's get back to that fence line. Mary couldn't feel her legs anymore. That was probably for the best. The chain held her upright against the fence post, metal biting into flesh that had gone numb hours ago. She didn't look down at her wrist, didn't want to know if that wetness running down her palm was blood or sweat. The sun hammered down like a forge. "Please," she whispered to nobody. To the hawks circling overhead. To her mama, 6 months cold in the ground. "Please, just make it quick." Her stepfather's voice still echoed in her skull. "You'll sign them papers, girl, or you'll learn what real suffering is." She'd spit in his face. He'd smiled, dragged her by the hair 3 miles from the ranch house, snapped the shackle shut, climbed back on his horse. "However long it takes," he'd said, "that's how long you'll hang here." That was sunrise yesterday, maybe the day before. Time had gotten slippery. Thirst wasn't a feeling anymore. It was a living thing with claws dragging across the inside of her throat. Her tongue felt like boot leather. The heat pressed down on her shoulders, shoving her toward the ground. She'd stopped sweating. That was bad. Mama had told her once, no. Don't think about Mama. But the memories came anyway. Sarah Hale laughing in the kitchen, flour on her hands. Sarah Hale braiding Mary's hair before church, humming hymns in that voice like warm honey. Sarah Hale wasting away in bed, still managing to smile when Mary brought her water. "You're stronger than you know, baby girl. Don't you ever forget that." Mary didn't feel strong now. She felt like ash waiting to blow away. "I'm sorry, Mama. I tried." Hoofbeats. Distant. Getting louder. Mary lifted her head, even that took everything she had, and squinted against the glare. A rider. Coming fast. Hope flared, then died. Probably Hank coming back to wave those papers in her face. She wouldn't beg. She'd die first. The rider slowed. Not Hank. Too tall in the saddle. A stranger. Weathered face. Gray threading through dark hair under a battered hat. Hard lines around eyes that had seen things that carved a man down to what mattered. He stared at her for 3 seconds. Then he swung down and crossed the distance in 4 strides. "Jesus Christ!" His voice was rough gravel and fury. "What kind of animal does this—" Mary tried to answer. Her throat seized. Nothing came out but a rasp. The man's jaw went tight as iron. He pulled a knife. Mary flinched. "Hold still," he said, going straight for the chain. The knife struck the link once, twice, 3 times. Metal screamed. The chain broke. Mary's legs gave out. The stranger caught her before she hit ground. Strong hands, but gentle. He lowered her down slow. "Water," she managed. "I know." He was already reaching for his canteen. Small sips, not too fast. The first taste was glass going down. Then her body sang. "Easy." He pulled the canteen back. "Too much, and you'll bring it up. Give it a minute." Mary nodded, slumped against the fence post, tried to remember how to be human. The stranger studied her face, the split lip, the bruise spreading like spilled ink across her cheekbone, the torn dress. His expression went cold and flat as a frozen lake. "Who did this? My stepfather." "Why, he wants—" Her voice cracked. "He wants the ranch, wants me to sign it over. I told him I'd die first. So he figured he'd help you along." The man's voice could have cut stone. Mary started shaking. The exhaustion, the fear, the relief, all of it hit at once. "All right." He stood, moved to his horse, came back with a bedroll. "Story can wait. Let's get you safe first." He spread the bedroll in the thin shadow beside the fence. "Lay down while I work on that shackle." Mary slid onto the fabric. Heaven against burned skin. The stranger examined the manacle still locked around her wrist. Blood crusted the metal. He frowned. "This'll hurt, but infection's already starting." "Okay." He worked the knife tip under the shackle's edge, prying careful. Mary bit down hard. The metal scraped. Fresh blood welled up. "Almost there." The shackle popped open. Mary gasped at the sudden absence of pressure. The man pulled a bandana from his pocket, dunked it in water, wrapped it around her wrist. "This'll do till we get you proper doctored." "Thank you." He met her eyes. His were storm cloud gray, hard but not unkind. "Don't thank me yet. We got 3 miles of desert and you're in no shape to ride, but we'll manage." He offered his hand. "Name's John Carter." "Mary Hale." "Well, Mary Hale, let's get you home." John made a travois from branches and rope, hitched it to his saddle, lifted Mary onto it like she weighed nothing. Then he walked, leading the horse slow, while the sun dropped toward the horizon, painting everything the color of old blood. Mary drifted. In and out, woke once to John giving her more water. Woke again to lamplight spilling across her face. "Easy. We're here. You're safe now." She felt herself lifted, carried, set down on something soft, a bed with sheets and a pillow. "I'm going to clean those wounds. Then get food in you. You just rest." The darkness took her. Different this time. Not the darkness of dying. The darkness of healing. When Mary woke, night had fallen. She lay still taking inventory. Her wrist throbbed. Head ached. But she was alive. Clean. Someone had washed the blood off. Changed her into a cotton nightgown that smelled like soap. Bandages wrapped her wrist, her shoulder. Places she didn't remember being hurt. A lamp burned low beside the bed. Through an open doorway, she could see into the main room. John Carter sat at a table, his back to her, cleaning a rifle. Mary pushed herself up. The room swayed. She gritted her teeth, waited. "You should be sleeping," John said without turning around. "How did you—" "Floor creaks." He set down the rifle and turned. "How you feeling?" "Like I got trampled and left for buzzards." "Close enough." Almost smiled. Almost. "You hungry?" Her stomach cramped at just the thought. John disappeared, came back with a bowl. "Broth. Nothing heavy yet." Mary took it with shaking hands. The first spoonful tasted like life itself. She forced herself to eat slow. John pulled up a chair, watched her without saying anything. After a few minutes, Mary set the bowl aside. "You want to know what happened?" "Only if you want to tell it." She did. And she didn't. But the words came. "Mama died 6 months ago. Cancer. The ranch was hers, her daddy left it to her. 300 acres. Not much, but it was ours." John nodded. "She married Hank Drayton when I was 12, after my real daddy died. Hank seemed decent at first, worked hard, but after Mama got sick, things changed." Mary's hands clenched. "He started drinking, getting mean. Then she died." "The ranch should have gone to you." "Should have. But Hank had papers. A will. Said Mama signed everything over before she passed. I know she didn't, I was with her every day, but the signature looked real. Lawyer said it was legal." "You contested it?" "Tried. Hank has friends. Judge wouldn't hear my case." The anger came hot and bitter. "So Hank said I had 2 choices. Sign the ranch over, or marry him and keep it in the family." John's expression went very still. "He wanted you to marry him. Said it was the only way to make things proper." Mary's voice shook. "I told him I'd die first. So he chained me out there to break me." The silence stretched long. John's face hadn't changed, but something in his eyes had gone cold enough to freeze blood. "He won't touch you again. Not while I'm breathing." "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to." He stood. "But I'm going to. Get some rest. We'll figure the next step come morning." He started to leave. "Mr. Carter." He stopped. "Why, you don't know me." John was quiet. Then, "I had a daughter once, about your age. She died. So did my wife. Cholera took them both in 3 days. I couldn't save them." His jaw tightened. "But I can save you." He walked out. Mary lay back staring at the ceiling, and for the first time in 6 months, felt something besides fear. Hope. Morning came with coffee smell and bacon sizzle. Mary woke to sunlight streaming through the window. Clean clothes waited on the chair, a simple dress worn but mended. Too big, but it'd work. She dressed slow, wincing, and made it to the main room. John stood at the stove. "Sit. Food's almost ready." She sat. The table was rough pine, scarred and worn. The whole house was like that, functional, a shelter, not a home. John set down a plate. Eggs, bacon, biscuits, more food than she'd seen in weeks. "Eat what you can." She managed half. John finished the rest without comment, then poured coffee. "We need to talk about what comes next." "I know. You can stay here long as you need, but eventually Hank's gonna come looking." "He probably already is." "That's what I figured." John wrapped both hands around his mug. "So we got options. I take you to town, you tell the sheriff." "Won't work. Sheriff owes Hank money. Gambling debts." "All right. Second option, Santa Fe. You got family there." "No. Mama was an only child. Daddy's people are back east. Haven't seen them since I was little." John frowned. "I'm not running," Mary said. The words surprised her, but once they were out, she knew they were true. "That ranch is mine. Mama's blood is in that land. I'm not letting Hank steal it." "Girl, you're 17 and he's a grown man with connections and no conscience." "I can't what?" The anger flared. "I can't fight. I already tried dying Mr. Carter. Didn't take. So I figure I might as well try living. And living means getting back what's mine." John studied her. Whatever he saw made him nod. "All right. Then we do this smart. Build a case. Get evidence. Find people willing to testify." "How?" "I got friends. People who knew your mama. People who know Hank's not the saint he pretends to be." John leaned forward. "We document everything. Your injuries, the chain, where he left you, make it impossible to deny." "That could take weeks." "Probably. And in the meantime, you stay here, you heal, you get strong. When the time comes, you face him from strength, not desperation." Mary wanted to argue, wanted to ride back right now and make him pay. But she wasn't stupid. She was exhausted, hurt alone. John was offering time, safety, a chance to do this right. "Okay, we do it your way." "Good." He stood, started clearing plates. Hoofbeats cut him off. Both froze. John moved to the window, looked out, careful. His shoulders tensed. 4 riders, coming fast. Mary's heart kicked. "Is it?" "Can't tell yet." 30 seconds later, she didn't need him to tell her. The voice that called across the yard was loud, slurred, and made her blood run cold. "Carter, John Carter. I know you're in there, old man, and I know you got something that belongs to me." Hank Drayton had found her, and from the sound of his voice, thick with whiskey, and something darker, something that sounded like madness, dancing on a knife edge, he hadn't come to talk. John's hand moved to the rifle leaning against the wall. Not fast, not slow, just deliberate, the way a man moves when he's done this before and knows exactly what comes next. "Stay in that room," he said to Mary without looking at her. "Don't come out no matter what you hear." "Mr. Carter." "Now, Mary." She backed toward the bedroom doorway, every muscle in her body screaming at her to run, to hide, to disappear. But she couldn't tear her eyes away from the window, from the dust cloud rising in the yard as 4 horses circled the house like wolves around a kill. Hank's voice came again, closer now, right outside the door. "I ain't got all day, Carter. Send the girl out and we can all go home peaceful." John picked up the rifle, checked the chamber with practiced hands, and moved to stand beside the door. Not in front of it, beside it. Mary noticed that. Noticed the way he positioned himself so the door would open away from him, give him cover and angle. "Mary Hale's under my protection now. Drayton," John called out. His voice was steady, calm, like he was discussing the weather. "Whatever business you think you got with her, it's over." Laughter came from outside. Harsh, ugly laughter that made Mary's skin crawl. She recognized the other voices joining in Hank's men. Probably Clay Henderson and his brother Dutch, maybe Tom Garrett. Men who'd worked the ranch when Mama was alive, who'd looked the other way when Hank started getting rough. "Protection!" Hank's voice was thick with whiskey and rage. "That's a fancy word for kidnapping, old man. That's my stepdaughter you got in there. My family. And I want her back. The law might see things different when they hear how you left her chained in the desert to die." Silence. Then, "Who's gonna tell 'em you, an old drifter with no ties to nobody, or her a hysterical girl who don't know what's good for her?" The sound of boots on wood. Hank was on the porch now. "I got 4 men with me, Carter. You really want to die over this?" Mary's legs were shaking. She gripped the doorframe to keep from falling. This was her fault. John Carter had saved her life, and now he was going to lose his because she'd been too stubborn, too stupid to just sign those papers and disappear. "Mr. Carter," she whispered. "Please, I'll go with him. You'll do no such thing." John's voice was low, but it cut through her panic like a blade. "And you'll be quiet now. I need to hear." Outside, someone was moving. Footsteps circling the house. Mary could hear them creaking on the porch boards, slow and deliberate. They were surrounding them. "Last chance, Carter," Hank called out. "Send her out or we're coming in." John's jaw tightened. He glanced back at Mary, and for just a second, something that might have been regret flickered across his face. Then it was gone, replaced by cold determination. "Mary," he said quietly, "there's a root cellar. Trapdoor under that rug by the bed. You get down there, and you don't come up till I tell you it's safe. You understand? I can't leave you. You can and you will. Go, now." The front door exploded inward. Not from a kick, from an axe. The blade bit through the wood with a crack like thunder, splintered the frame, and Hank Drayton came through with violence in his eyes and whiskey on his breath. John's rifle came up fast. "Don't." That one word stopped Hank mid-step. The axe hung in his hand, still trembling from the force of the blow. Behind him, Mary could see the others, 3 men with guns drawn, fanning out across the porch. "You gonna shoot me, old man?" Hank's lips pulled back from his teeth. "That what you think this is? You kill me, my boys kill you." Then what happens to the girl? "Then the law comes," John said, "and they find 4 dead men who broke into my home. That's how this ends for you, Drayton. Not with your stepdaughter, with a pine box." For a long moment, nobody moved. The world hung suspended on the edge of violence, waiting to see which way it would fall. Then Hank smiled. It was the worst thing Mary had ever seen. Worse than the beatings. Worse than being chained to that fence. Because she saw in that smile exactly what Hank was: not just cruel, but empty. A man with nothing inside him but want and rage. "You know what I think, Carter?" Hank lowered the axe slow. "I think you ain't gonna shoot. Because you're a decent man. And decent men don't shoot people in cold blood, even when they probably should." He took a step forward. "So here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna put down that rifle. My boys are gonna come in peaceful. And we're all gonna have a conversation about what's right and proper. Get out of my house." "Can't do that. Not without what's mine." John's finger moved to the trigger. "She's not yours. Never was." The law says different. I got papers that say Sarah Hale signed everything over to me before she died. That includes the ranch, the cattle, and her daughter." Hank's voice went soft, almost gentle. It was somehow worse than the shouting. "Now I know Mary's been telling stories, saying I hurt her, saying I left her out there to die. But we both know how girls can be, emotional, hysterical, making up tales when they don't get their way." "I saw the wounds," John said flatly. "Saw where you chained her. That ain't no tale." "Self-inflicted. Girl was always troubled. Ask anyone in town. Ever since her mama died, she's been—" Hank tapped his temple with one finger. "Not right in the head. Tried to hurt herself more than once. I was just trying to keep her safe, and this is the thanks I get." Mary's vision went red. The rage came up so fast and hot she couldn't breathe around it. Every word out of Hank's mouth was a lie poison wrapped in concern, and he said it so smoothly, like he actually believed it. "You lying son of a—" The words tore out of her before she could stop them. Hank's head whipped toward the bedroom doorway. His eyes locked on Mary, and his whole face changed. The fake concern vanished. What replaced it was hunger. "There she is," he said softly. "There's my girl. Come on out here, Mary. Let's go home." "I'd rather die." "That can be arranged." The softness left his voice. "But first you're gonna watch me put a bullet in the old man's head. Then you're gonna sign them papers. Then—" He smiled again. "Then we'll see about the rest." John's rifle barrel never wavered from Hank's chest. "You take one more step and I drop you where you stand." "No, you won't." Hank's confidence was absolute. "Because the second you shoot me, my boys come through that door. And Mary dies along with you. That what you want, Carter? You willing to sacrifice her to make a point?" The trap closed around them like jaws. Mary could see it in John's face, the calculation, the bitter understanding that Hank was right. If shooting started, they were both dead. The best John could do was take Hank with them, and that wouldn't save Mary. It'd just get her killed faster. "Put down the rifle," Hank said. "And maybe we can all walk away from this." John's hands tightened on the weapon. Mary could see the war in his eyes, years of training and survival instinct, fighting against the simple human decency that wouldn't let him sacrifice her. She couldn't let him do this. Couldn't let him die for her. "Mr. Carter," Mary said quietly, "put it down, please." "Mary, put it down. I'll go with him. It's okay." "Like hell it is." "John." She used his first name for the first time. Stepped out of the bedroom doorway, where he could see her fully. "I'm not worth dying over. Let me go." Something shifted in the room. The air itself seemed to change charge with electricity, like before a lightning strike. Hank saw it too. His smile widened. "Listen to her, Carter. Girls got more sense than you do." But John wasn't looking at Hank anymore. He was looking at Mary, and in his eyes she saw something that made her throat close up. Not pity, not regret, pride. "You are worth dying over," John said quietly. "And anyone who tells you different is a liar and a coward." Then he lowered the rifle. Hank's grin stretched wider. He nodded to the men behind him. "Clay, get in here. Take the old man's gun." Clay Henderson stepped through the shattered doorway, moving careful gun trained on John. He was a big man, broad-shouldered, with hands that had seen hard work and harder violence. He crossed the room, reached for the rifle. John let him take it. "Good," Hank said. "See, nobody has to die. Now." He turned to Mary. "Come here, girl." Mary's feet wouldn't move. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but there was nowhere to go. The window was too small, the door was blocked, and even if she ran, they'd just shoot John and come after her. She took one step forward, then another. Her whole body felt like it was moving through water. "That's it," Hank said, his voice dripping false kindness. "Just come on over here, and we'll forget all about this unpleasantness." 5 feet away. 4. 3. Hank reached out to grab her arm. John moved. Fast. Faster than a man his age should have been able to move. His hand shot out, grabbed Clay's wrist, twisted hard. The gun went off deafening in the small room, but the bullet went wide, punched through the wall instead of flesh. John's other hand came up with something small and dark. A knife. The same one he'd used to cut Mary's chain. It flashed once in the lamplight and buried itself in Clay's throat. Clay made a wet, gurgling sound and went down. Time fractured. Everything happened at once and in slow motion simultaneously. Hank lunged for Mary. The men on the porch were shouting, bringing up their weapons. John dove for the rifle Clay had dropped. Rolled came up firing. The first shot caught Dutch Henderson in the shoulder, spun him around. The second shot shattered the window frame right next to Tom Garrett's head. Tom dove off the porch, scrambled for cover. Hank's hand closed around Mary's wrist, the same wrist that still bore bandages from the shackle, and pain exploded white-hot behind her eyes. She screamed and lashed out blind, her other hand clawing at his face. Her nails caught his cheek, raked down, drew blood. Hank howled and backhanded her. Mary's head snapped to the side. The world tilted. She tasted copper. John roared an animal sound, pure rage, and reversed. The rifle swung the stock like a club. It connected with Hank's skull with a sound like splitting wood. Hank staggered, his grip on Mary loosening. She tore free, stumbled backward, hit the wall. Another gunshot from outside. The lamp exploded in a shower of glass and kerosene. Fire spread across the table in a blue-orange wave. Smoke filled the room almost instantly. "The cellar!" John's voice cut through the chaos. "Mary, go!" But Mary wasn't running anymore. Something had broken open inside her when Hank hit her. Not fear. Something older than fear. Something that had teeth. She grabbed the fire poker from beside the stove. Hank was getting back up, shaking his head like a stunned bull. Blood ran down his face from where John had hit him. His eyes found Mary and went flat with hate. "You little—" Mary swung the poker with everything she had. It caught Hank across the ribs with a crack that she felt all the way up her arms. He went down on one knee, gasping. "That's for Mama," Mary snarled. She raised the poker again. John grabbed her wrist. "We got to go. Now. Before the whole place burns." He was right. The fire had spread from the table to the curtains, was licking up the wall toward the ceiling. Smoke choked the air, made her eyes water. More gunshots from outside. Someone was shouting orders. Through the broken window, Mary could see Dutch Henderson trying to get back on his feet. Tom Garrett taking aim from behind a water trough. John pulled Mary toward the bedroom. They hit the floor together, rolled under the bed. His hands found the trapdoor, yanked it open. Darkness yawned below. "Down," he said. "I'm right behind you." Mary dropped through the opening into cool earth smell and darkness. A second later, John came through, pulled the trapdoor shut above them. The sound of gunfire and shouting became muffled, distant. They were in a root cellar, small, cramped, lined with shelves holding preserves and potatoes. A single lantern hung from a hook. John lit it with shaking hands. "You hurt?" he asked. Mary touched her face where Hank had hit her. Her lip was split. "I'm okay." "That was stupid. Brave but stupid. You could have gotten killed." "So could you." "I'm old. You're 17. There's a difference." Above them, the floorboards creaked. Footsteps. Someone was searching the house. Then Hank's voice, distorted by smoke and distance. "Where'd they go? Find them." John put a finger to his lips, pulled Mary back into the shadows at the far end of the cellar. They pressed against the cold stone wall and waited. More footsteps. The sound of furniture being overturned. Glass breaking. The fire was getting worse. Mary could smell it, could feel the heat starting to seep through the floorboards above. "They ain't here," Tom Garrett's voice. "Maybe they got out the back." "Then find 'em." Hank was coughing now, choking on smoke. Don't let them get away. The footsteps moved away, toward the door, outside. John waited another 30 seconds, then moved to the cellar's far wall. He pushed on a section of stone, and it swung inward, not a wall at all, but a hidden door. Tunnel, he said quietly. Comes out in the barn. Built it during the war. Never thought I'd actually need it. They crawled through on hands and knees. The passage was narrow, dirt-walled, shored up with old timbers. It smelled like earth and rot. Mary tried not to think about what would happen if it collapsed. Behind them, she could hear Hank's voice growing fainter. Check the cellar. They gotta be... Then they were too far away to hear anything else. The tunnel seemed to go on forever. Mary's knees hit rocks. Her hands scraped on rough wood. John stayed right behind her, moving fast despite his age. The lantern threw crazy shadows on the walls. Finally, light ahead. A ladder leading up to another trapdoor. John climbed first, pushed it open, careful looked out, then nodded to Mary. They emerged in the barn behind a stack of hay bales. Through the gaps in the wall boards, Mary could see the house. Fully engulfed now, flames reaching for the sky, black smoke boiling up into the morning air. Hank and his men were still out front, arguing, trying to decide if anyone could still be inside. John's horse was in the barn, already saddled. Like he'd known this might happen. Like he'd been ready. He swung up into the saddle, reached down for Mary. She grabbed his hand, and he pulled her up behind him. She wrapped her arms around his waist and held on. Barn door's gonna make noise when we open it, John said. So when I kick this horse, you hold on tight and don't let go for nothing. Understand? Where are we going? Anywhere but here. John gathered the reins. Ready? Mary looked back at the burning house. At Hank's silhouette against the flames, still searching for them, still convinced he owned her. Ready, she said. John kicked the horse hard. The animal exploded forward. They hit the barn door at a full gallop, and it burst open in a shower of splinters. Sunlight flooded in, blinding after the darkness. Behind them, someone shouted. A gun fired. The bullet whined past Mary's ear close enough that she felt the air move. But John's horse was fast, and fear gave it wings. They were across the yard, through the gate, and onto the open plain before Hank's men could get mounted. Mary looked back once, saw the house collapse in on itself in a pillar of fire and ash, saw Hank standing in the ruins, staring after them, his face twisted with rage. Then they crested a hill, and he was gone, swallowed by distance and dust. John rode hard for an hour before slowing the horse to a walk. They were in rough country now, rocks and scrub and arroyos that could hide an army. Good country for disappearing. He pulled up beside a creek, let the horse drink. Mary slid down her legs, shaking so bad she could barely stand. The adrenaline was wearing off and everything hurt. Her wrist, her face, her hands where she'd gripped the fire poker. John dismounted, checked her over with the practiced eye of someone who'd seen plenty of injured people. You're gonna have a black eye, he said. And that lip needs attention. But you'll live. Your house was just wood and nails. We're alive. That's what matters. He looked at her seriously. What you did back there, hitting Drayton, that took guts. I was terrified. Courage ain't the absence of fear, Mary. It's doing what needs doing despite the fear. John pulled his canteen, offered it. You did good. Mary took a long drink. The water was warm, but it helped. What do we do now? He'll come after us. I know, which is why we're not stopping. John looked up at the sun, gauging direction. Got a friend about 2 days' ride from here, Sam Crawford. He's a marshal, federal, not local. Hank's money don't reach that far. You think he'll help? Sam owes me his life 3 times over. Yeah, he'll help. John climbed back into the saddle. But we got to get there first, and Hank's gonna be looking, so we ride careful and we ride smart. Can you handle that? Mary thought about her mama, about the ranch that should have been hers, about every time Hank had raised his hand, and she'd been too small, too weak, too scared to fight back. She thought about the fire poker connecting with his ribs, the look on his face when he'd realized she'd hit him. "I can handle it," she said. John smiled. It was the first real smile she'd seen from him. "I believe you can. Come on, we got ground to cover." He pulled her back up behind him. The horse started walking, following the creek south, and Mary held on tight. Behind them, somewhere in the distance, smoke still rose from what used to be John Carter's home. But ahead of them was something Hank couldn't burn. A chance. And for the first time since her mama died, Mary Hale felt something she thought she'd lost forever. She felt dangerous. They rode through the heat of the day and into the cool of evening, following dry creek beds and staying off the main trails. John kept them moving at a steady pace, stopping only to let the horse rest and drink. Mary's body ached from the saddle, from the fight, from everything, but she didn't complain. Complaining wouldn't change anything. The sun was dropping toward the horizon when John finally pulled up in a stand of cottonwoods. "We'll camp here tonight. Got water, got cover. Be hard to spot us unless someone knew exactly where to look." Mary slid off the horse and immediately regretted it. Her legs buckled. John caught her elbow, steadied her. "Easy. You've been riding hard all day on an empty stomach. Sit down before you fall down." She sat on a flat rock while John unsaddled the horse and set about making camp. He moved efficient, no wasted motion. Built a small fire in a depression where the light wouldn't show, filled a pot with water from the creek, pulled strips of dried meat from his saddlebag. "It ain't much," he said, dropping the meat into the water. "But it'll keep us going." Mary watched him work. There was something calming about it, the simple domestic routine after all the violence. Like the world could still be normal if you just went through the right motions. "You've done this before," she said. "Running, I mean." John didn't look up from the fire. "I was a soldier, then a scout. Spent more time running than standing still, seems like." He poked at the fire with a stick. "You learn real quick that survival ain't about being the strongest or the fastest. It's about being smart, knowing when to fight and when to disappear." "And which is this?" "Both." He glanced at her. "We disappeared so we could come back and fight proper. With the law on our side, instead of Hank's friends." The water started to boil. John added some wild onions he'd found by the creek. The smell made Mary's stomach clench with hunger. She couldn't remember the last real meal she'd had. Yesterday's breakfast felt like a lifetime ago. "Here." John handed her a tin cup filled with the broth. "Drink it slow. There's more if you want it." The broth was thin and salty, but it was the best thing Mary had ever tasted. She forced herself to sip it instead of gulping it down. They ate in silence as the darkness gathered around them. Stars began to show overhead, more than Mary had ever seen. Out here, away from town, lights and ranch houses, the sky went on forever. "My mama used to say the stars were holes in heaven," Mary said quietly. "Places where the light shines through." John looked up. "That's a nice thought. You think she can see me from up there? I think if anyone's watching over you, it's her." John pulled his bedroll closer to the fire. "And I think she'd be proud of what you did today. Standing up to Drayton, fighting back. I was so scared I thought I'd die from it. But you didn't, and you didn't run." John's eyes reflected the firelight. "That's the thing about courage, Mary. It ain't about not being afraid. It's about being afraid, and doing what needs doing anyway." Mary thought about that. About the moment she'd grabbed the fire poker. The moment she'd chosen to fight instead of run. It hadn't felt like courage at the time. It had felt like rage and desperation, and 100 other things all tangled together. "Mr. Carter." "John, we're past Mr. at this point." "John, why'd you really help me? I know what you said about your daughter, but you didn't know me. You could have just rode on past that fence." John was quiet for a long time. The fire popped and crackled. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called. "I did ride past once," he said finally. "Long time ago. Found a family man-woman, 2 kids their wagon had broke down in the desert. They were in bad shape. Real bad. I told myself it wasn't my problem. I had somewhere to be, something important to do. Can't even remember what it was now." He stared into the flames. "Came back that way 3 days later. They were all dead. Died of thirst not 20 miles from water." Mary's throat tightened. "I swore I'd never do that again. Never ride past someone who needed help. So when I heard you crying out there..." He shook his head. "I wasn't going to make the same mistake twice. I'm sorry. About that family." "Me too." John pulled his hat down over his eyes. "Get some sleep. We got another hard day tomorrow." Mary lay down on the blanket he'd spread for her, using her arm as a pillow. The ground was hard and the night was getting cold, but exhaustion pulled at her like an undertow. Her eyes drifted shut. She woke to John's hand over her mouth and his voice whispering urgent in her ear. "Don't move. Don't make a sound." Her eyes snapped open. The fire had burned down to embers. The night was full dark, and somewhere close, too close, she could hear horses. Men's voices talking low. "Lost the trail back at the creek. Could have gone any direction. Hank's gonna skin us if we don't find him. Hank can go to hell. I ain't riding all night on a maybe. We'll pick it up again at first light." The voices were moving away, hoofbeats fading into the distance. John kept his hand over Mary's mouth until the sounds were completely gone. Then he removed it slow, put a finger to his lips. They waited. 5 minutes. 10. Nothing but wind and the creek and the horse shifting its weight. "They're gone," John whispered. "But they're close. Too close. We need to move. In the dark. Safer than staying here. They'll backtrack at dawn. Find our camp. We need to be long gone by then." He was already rolling up the bedrolls, kicking dirt over the fire embers. "Can you ride?" Every part of Mary's body screamed, no, but she nodded anyway. They moved like ghosts through the darkness. John led the horse instead of riding, feeling his way along the creek bank by starlight. Mary followed, trying not to think about snakes or holes, or all the ways this could go wrong. After an hour, John stopped. "We'll rest here till dawn, but no fire, and we take turns keeping watch." "I can take first watch," Mary said. "You sure?" "I'm not going to be able to sleep anyway." John studied her face in the darkness, then nodded. "Wake me if you hear anything. Anything at all." He lay down and was asleep in minutes, the deep instant sleep of a soldier who'd learned to rest whenever the chance came. Mary sat with her back against a rock, John's rifle across her lap, and watched the stars wheel overhead. The night pressed in around her. Every sound made her jump. The rustle of leaves, the splash of something in the creek, the distant yip of coyotes. She kept seeing Hanka's face in the shadows, kept feeling his hand on her wrist. But mixed with the fear was something else. Something harder. She'd hit him. She'd made him bleed. And some dark part of her had liked it. That scared her almost as much as he did. Dawn came cold and gray. John woke, took one look at Mary's face and frowned. "You didn't sleep at all, did you?" "Couldn't." He didn't argue, just handed her some jerky and got the horse ready. They mounted up and kept moving south, staying in rough country where riders couldn't move fast. By midday, Mary was swaying in the saddle. The world had taken on a strange fuzzy quality, like she was watching everything through dirty glass. She gripped John's coat to keep from falling. "Hold on," he said. "We're almost there." "Almost where?" "You'll see." An hour later, they crested a ridge, and Mary saw it. A ranch house in a valley below. Bigger than John's had been, with a proper barn and corrals. Smoke rose from the chimney. Safe. Civilization. "That's Sam's place," John said. "We made it." They rode down slow, taking their time. When they were 50 yards from the house, a man stepped out onto the porch. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a silver star pinned to his vest and a shotgun in his hands. "That's far enough," he called out. "State your business." "It's John Carter." "Sam." "Put down the scattergun before you shoot somebody." The man lowered the weapon. His weathered face split into a grin. "John Carter. I'll be damned. Thought you were dead." "Not yet, but I got some people trying real hard to fix that." John dismounted, helped Mary down. "Sam Crawford, meet Mary Hale. She's the reason we're here." Sam's eyes took in Mary's bruised face, her torn dress, the bandages on her wrist. His expression went hard. "Someone hurt you, girl." "Her stepfather," John said. "Hank Drayton. He's been—" "I know who Hank Drayton is." Sam's voice could have frozen water. "Come inside. Both of you. You look like hell, and I'm guessing there's a story that goes with it." The house was warm and smelled like coffee and bread. A woman appeared from the kitchen, Sam's wife Martha, round-faced and kind-eyed. She took one look at Mary and immediately hustled her toward the back room. "Lord have mercy, child. Let's get you cleaned up proper. Sam, you and John can talk. This girl needs tending." Mary wanted to protest, wanted to hear what John told Sam, but Martha was already steering her away with gentle insistence. In the back room there was a basin of warm water, clean clothes, and soft hands that cleaned her wounds without hurting. "You've been through it, haven't you?" Martha said softly, dabbing at the cut on Mary's lip. "But you're safe now. Sam won't let anyone hurt you. Neither will John." "You know John." "Known him 20 years. He and Sam rode together in the war. Saved each other's lives more times than either will admit." Martha smiled. "John's a good man. If he brought you here, it means he trusts you. And if he trusts you, so do I." The kindness was almost harder to bear than the cruelty had been. Mary felt tears burning behind her eyes. She blinked them back hard. "Don't you dare," Martha said firmly. "You cry if you need to. Lord knows you've earned it." So Mary did. She cried while Martha cleaned her wounds and braided her hair and dressed her in clean clothes that smelled like lavender. Cried for her mama and the ranch and the life that should have been hers. Cried until there was nothing left inside her but exhaustion. When she finally emerged puffy-eyed and wrung out, John and Sam were at the kitchen table with coffee and a map spread between them. "Got maybe 24 hours before Drayton figures out where we went," John was saying. After that, let him come." Sam's voice was flat and hard. "I'm a federal marshal. He comes on my land making threats, I got every right to arrest him, or shoot him, whichever seems more appropriate at the time. He's got men with him, 4 at least. I got men too, and mine are deputized legal." Sam looked up as Mary approached. "How you feeling, girl?" "Better, thank you." "Sit down. We're just figuring out the best way to nail Hank Drayton's hide to the wall." He gestured at the map. "John tells me Drayton forged a will to steal your mama's ranch. That true?" "Yes, sir." "You got any proof?" Mary shook her head. "The lawyer in town, Mr. Perkins, he has the papers. But Hank pays him. He'll say whatever Hank wants him to say." "Perkins." Sam made a disgusted sound. "Yeah, I know him. Crooked as a dog's hind leg. But that don't matter. We don't need his papers." He tapped the map. "What we need is witnesses. People who knew your mama. People who can testify she never would have signed her ranch over to Drayton. There's Mrs. Henderson. She was Mama's best friend. And the Garcias, they worked our ranch for years. And Pastor Williams married Mama and Hank. He knew her well." "Good. That's good." Sam pulled out a piece of paper, started writing names. "We'll get statements from all of them. Build a case solid enough that even a crooked judge can't ignore it." "And what about the attempted murder?" John said quietly. "Girl was chained in the desert to die. That's more than just fraud. That's attempted murder." Can you prove he did it? Any witnesses besides Mary? I found her chained up. Saw the wounds myself. But you didn't see Drayton do it. He admitted it. Back at my house before... John stopped. Before things went bad. Sam looked between them. What things? So John told him. About the confrontation, the fight, Clay Henderson dead on the floor, the house burning, all of it. When he finished, Sam was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "So Drayton's got you for murder now. Self-defense, but still." "I know. And arson, even though it was your own house." "Stay. I know that too. Means we got to move fast, before he gets to a judge and gets warrants issued." Sam stood paced to the window. "All right. Here's what we do. I ride to town tomorrow with Mary. We get statements from the witnesses. Then we go to the county seat, not the local judge, but the district judge in Santa Fe. File charges against Drayton for fraud, attempted murder, and assault. Get an arrest warrant issued before he can do the same to us." "He'll try to stop you," John said. "He finds out you're gathering evidence, he'll shut down the witnesses, or worse. Then we move quiet, and fast." Sam looked at Mary. "You up for this? It's gonna mean facing people, telling your story over and over. Some folks might not believe you. Drayton's got friends who'll call you a liar." Mary thought about her mama dying in that bed, about Hank's hand on her wrist, the chain cutting into her flesh, about the ranch that should have been hers. "I'm up for it," she said. "All right then." Sam folded the map. "We leave at dawn. John, you stay here with Martha. Keep your head down. If Drayton comes looking, you were never here." "The hell with that. I'm going with you. You're a wanted man. You show your face in town and Drayton will have you arrested before we can blink." "He's right, John," Martha said from the kitchen doorway. "You stay here. Let Sam handle this legal." John's jaw worked. He didn't like it Mary could see that, but he nodded. "Fine, but if anything happens to her..." "Nothing's gonna happen," Sam said. "I got my badge and I got my gun and I got right on my side. That's more than Drayton's ever had." That night, Mary lay in a real bed with clean sheets and a full stomach and still couldn't sleep. Tomorrow, she'd have to go back. Face the town. Face people who'd known her mama, who'd watched Hank take over and done nothing. Face the memories. There was a soft knock on the door. John's voice, "You awake?" "Yes." He came in, stood awkward in the doorway. "Just wanted to check on you, make sure you're all right." "I'm scared." "Good. That means you're smart." He crossed to the window, looked out at the darkness. "I know what Sam said, about me staying here. But if you need me, if anything goes wrong, you send word and I'll come. Warrant or no warrant." "Why are you doing this?" "Really?" John turned to look at her. In the moonlight, his face was all hard planes and shadows. "I told you about my daughter, Emily. She was about your age when she died. And for years after, I wondered what would have happened if someone had been there to help her. If someone had stepped in when she got sick. If someone had fought for her the way I'm fighting for you." He paused. "I can't save Emily, but I can save you. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's what we're supposed to do in this life, save the ones we can, and try not to think too hard about the ones we couldn't." Mary's throat closed up. "Thank you. For everything. Don't thank me yet. This ain't over, not by a long shot." He moved toward the door. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow's gonna be hard." He left. Mary lay back down and stared at the ceiling. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows. Storm coming. She could feel it in the air, taste it on the back of her tongue. And somewhere out there in the darkness, Hank Drayton was looking for her, hunting her, getting closer with every passing hour. But for the first time since her mama died, Mary wasn't just the hunted. She was getting ready to hunt back. Dawn broke cold and gray with the smell of rain on the wind. Sam had 2 horses saddled and ready. He wore his marshal's badge pinned to his coat where everyone could see it, and his gun belt sat low on his hips. He looked like exactly what he was, a lawman ready for trouble. Mary climbed into the saddle. Her body ached, but she ignored it. Pain was just a thing that happened. It didn't have to stop you. You remember what we talked about? Sam asked. You let me do most of the talking. You just tell your story straight. Don't embellish. Don't get angry. Just the facts. Yes, sir. Good. Let's go get your life back. They rode out as the first drops of rain began to fall. John stood on the porch watching them go, his face unreadable. Mary looked back once. He raised his hand. She did the same. Then they were over the ridge, and he was gone. And there was nothing ahead but the long road to town, and whatever waited there. The rain picked up. By the time they reached the outskirts, it was a steady downpour that turned the streets to mud and sent people scurrying for cover. Sam led them straight to Mrs. Henderson's house, a neat little place on the edge of town, with flowers in the window boxes. He knocked. The door opened. A woman stood there, gray-haired and sharp-eyed. Her gaze went from Sam's badge to Mary's face, and her expression crumpled. Mary? Oh, Lord, child, we thought you were dead. Not yet, ma'am. Mary's voice came out steady. But I need your help. Mrs. Henderson pulled them inside out of the rain. Her hands shook as she poured coffee. Tell me what happened. Tell me everything. So Mary did, starting with her mama's death and ending with the chain in the desert. Mrs. Henderson listened without interrupting, her face going harder with each word. When Mary finished, Mrs. Henderson said, I knew something wasn't right. The way Hank acted after Sarah died, the way he looked at you. But I didn't. I should have. Her voice broke. You can help now, Sam said gently. We need you to give a statement. Tell what you know about Sarah and Hank. About the will. Sarah never signed no will giving Hank that ranch. Mrs. Henderson's voice was fierce. She told me herself not a week before she died. Said she'd made sure everything went to Mary. Said Hank would get enough to live on, but the land was Mary's birthright. She looked at Sam. I'll testify to that. I'll swear it on a Bible and in front of God and anyone else who asks. Sam wrote it all down. Got her signature. Then they moved to the next house. The Garcias. Pastor Williams. The doctor who'd treated Mary's mama in her final days. One by one they told their stories. One by one they signed statements. By noon, Sam had a stack of papers thick enough to choke a horse. That's enough, he said. We got what we need. Well now, ain't this interesting? The voice came from behind them. Mary turned and her blood went cold. Hank Drayton stood in the middle of the muddy street with 3 men behind him. Tom Garrett, Dutch Henderson, his arm in a sling, and a man Mary didn't recognize, tall, thin, with a face like a knife and a deputy's badge on his chest. That's far enough, Drayton, Sam said, his hand moving to his gun. I'm a federal marshal, and this girl's under my protection. Your protection, Hank smiled. His face was bruised where John had hit him, scratched where Mary's nails had raked him. That's funny. See, Deputy Collins here says you're harboring a fugitive. Says there's a warrant out for John Carter. Murder and arson. His smile widened. You know where he is, Marshal. Because if you do, you got a legal obligation to bring him in. Carter acted in self-defense against men who broke into his home. That ain't what the warrant says, and it don't matter anyway. Hank took a step closer, his eyes fixed on Mary with an intensity that made her skin crawl. What matters is that girl, my stepdaughter, my family. She's been kidnapped, and I want her back. I wasn't kidnapped, Mary said. Her voice didn't shake. I ran away from you, because you tried to kill me. That's a lie. Is it? Then how do you explain these? Mary pulled up her sleeve, showed the wounds on her wrist. You chained me in the desert to die. You did that to yourself. Everyone knows you've been troubled since your mama passed, talking to yourself, hurting yourself. I've been trying to help you, but you won't let me. Hank's voice was so reasonable, so concerned. It made Mary want to scream. Now I'm asking you nice, Come home. Let me take care of you like I promised your mama I would. No. Mary. I said no. Hank's face went hard. Then I guess we do this the hard way. Deputy Collins, arrest that marshal for obstruction, and bring me my daughter. The deputy's hand went to his gun. Sam's was faster. The metallic click of a hammer being cocked echoed through the rain. Sam's revolver pointed steady at the deputy's chest. Don't, Sam said quietly. I'm a federal officer. You try to arrest me on trumped-up charges, and you'll hang for it. The deputy froze. His hand hovered over his gun, uncertain. He's bluffing, Hank said. Take him. I'm not bluffing. Sam's voice was cold as ice. And neither is the backup I got waiting. You see that building across the street, the Mercantile? Look real close at the second-floor window. Everyone looked. Mary could just make out a figure in the window, a rifle barrel glinting in the gray light. That's my deputy, Sam said. And he's got orders. Anyone tries to draw on me, he shoots Drayton first, then works his way down the line. The street went very quiet. Even the rain seemed to pause. Hank's eyes flicked from Sam to the window and back again, calculations running behind his eyes, weighing the odds, trying to figure out if Sam was telling the truth. Mary held her breath. Finally, Hank took a step back. This ain't over, Marshal. No, it ain't, but it will be, real soon. Sam kept his gun trained steady. Now get out of my sight before I decide to arrest you for attempted murder. You got no proof. I got witnesses, I got statements, and I got this girl's testimony. That's all the proof I need. Sam's eyes narrowed. You're done, Drayton. You just don't know it yet. For a moment, Mary thought Hank would do something stupid. His hand twitched toward his gun. His face went purple with rage. Then he turned and walked away. His men followed, looking back over their shoulders like they expected Sam to shoot them in the back. Sam didn't lower his gun until they turned the corner and disappeared. Is there really someone in that window? Mary asked. Sam smiled grimly. No, but Drayton didn't need to know that. He holstered his weapon. Come on, we're leaving. Now, before he comes back with more men and less sense. They mounted up and rode hard for the edge of town. The rain had picked up again, coming down in sheets that turned the world gray and blurred. Behind them, Mary heard shouting, Hank's voice screaming orders. Faster, Sam said. They kicked the horses into a gallop. Mud flew. The town fell away behind them. But when Mary looked back, she could see riders mounting up, coming after them. The hunt was on. The horses' hooves thundered against the muddy ground, throwing up sheets of water with every stride. Mary clung to the saddle horn, rain stinging her face, turning everything ahead into a gray blur. Behind them, the shouts grew louder, closer. How many? She called to Sam over the roar of the storm. He glanced back, his face grim. 6, maybe 7. They're gaining. Can we outrun them? Not in this mud. Horses can't get good footing. Sam's jaw tightened. We need cover. Somewhere defensible. They crested a ridge, and Sam pulled up short, scanning the landscape. Mary followed his gaze. To the east, nothing but open plain death trap. To the west, a line of rocks and scrub that wouldn't stop a determined man. Straight ahead. There, Sam said, pointing. Old line shack about 2 miles out. Stone walls, 1 door. We can hold it. Can we make it? We got to. They urged the horses forward. The animals were blowing hard, their flanks heaving. They'd been running flat out for 20 minutes, and the mud was wearing them down. Mary could feel her mount stumbling, fighting for purchase. A gunshot cracked behind them. The bullet went wide, lost in the rain, but it was close enough that Mary heard it whistle past. They're in range, Sam said. Stay low. Mary pressed herself flat against the horse's neck. Another shot. Another. The pursuers were firing wild, trying to spook them or get lucky. Either way, it was working. Mary's heart hammered against her ribs so hard she thought they might crack. The line shack emerged from the rain like a ghost. Small square built from stacked stone with a sagging roof and one narrow door. Not much, but it was something. Sam made straight for it. They hit the ground running. Sam grabbed the horse's reins, dragged them toward a lean-to on the side of the building. "Get inside now." Mary stumbled through the door into darkness and the smell of old wood and mouse droppings. Her eyes adjusted slow. The shack was bare except for a rusted stove and some broken furniture. One window narrow-shuttered. The door hung crooked on leather hinges. Sam came in behind her, his arms full of saddlebags and rifles. He kicked the door shut, shoved a timber beam across it as a bar, then moved to the window, knocked the shutter open with his rifle butt. "How long till they get here?" Mary asked. 5 minutes, maybe less." He checked his rifle, started loading cartridges into the chamber with quick, practiced movements. "You know how to shoot. Mama taught me. Rabbits mostly, and coyotes when they got after the chickens." "Good enough." He pulled a second rifle from the saddlebag, handed it to her, along with a box of ammunition. "When they come, you aim for center mass. Don't try for headshots or anything fancy. Just point and pull the trigger. Understand?" Mary took the rifle. It was heavier than she remembered, cold and solid in her hands. "I understand." "And Mary." Sam's eyes were serious. "These men are trying to kill us. You hesitate, we die. So when the moment comes, you do what needs doing. Don't think. Just shoot." She nodded. Her mouth had gone dry. Sam positioned himself at the window, sighting down the barrel. Mary took up position on the other side, rifle resting on the stone sill. Through the rain, she could see movement. Riders approaching, spreading out in a line. They stopped about 100 yards out, just shapes in the gray rain. One of them, Hank, had to be urged his horse forward a few steps. "Marshal Crawford." His voice carried across the distance, distorted by wind and water. "You got nowhere to go. Send out the girl, and we'll let you ride away. You got my word." "Your word ain't worth spit, Drayton," Sam called back. "And the girl stays with me. Then you'll die in there. Better men than you have tried." Silence. The riders conferred too far away for Mary to hear what they were saying. Then they started moving, spreading wider, trying to surround the shack. "Here we go," Sam muttered. "Remember center mass, and keep your head down." The first shot came from the left. The bullet struck the stone wall and ricocheted off with a whine. Then another from the right. They were testing the defenses, seeing how Sam would respond. He didn't. Just watched through the scope, waiting. 3 riders broke away from the group, spurring their horses toward the shack at a gallop. Sam tracked them, let them get close. 50 yards, 40, 30, then fired. The lead rider jerked backward in his saddle, tumbled off his horse. The animal ran on riderless. The other 2 pulled up short, wheeled their horses away. More gunfire erupted, concentrated, now angry. Bullets hammered the walls, the shutters, the door. Wood splintered, stone chips flew. "Stay down!" Sam shouted, but Mary was already pressed against the wall, making herself as small as possible. The barrage lasted 30 seconds that felt like 30 years. Then silence again, broken only by the rain and someone screaming the man Sam had shot, still alive out there in the mud. "Marshal." Different voice this time. "Tom Garrett. You just killed Pete Morgan. That's murder. That's self-defense against men trying to kill a federal officer," Sam shouted back. "And every one of you is looking at prison time for it. Throw down your weapons and you might see trial instead of a rope." "We ain't going to prison." "Then I guess we're all dying today." More silence. Mary risked a glance through the window gap. The riders had pulled back, regrouping. The rain was letting up visibility, getting better. She could see Hank now clear as day, sitting his horse and staring at the shack with an expression that made her stomach turn. Not anger anymore, something colder, calculation. "They're planning something," she said. "I know." Sam was reloading his movements, quick and efficient. "They can't rush us. We got too good a position, so they'll try to wait us out or smoke us out." "Smoke us out." Fire. If they can get close enough to set the roof burning, we'll have to run. And when we run, they'll gun us down." Mary looked up at the sagging timber ceiling. It was old dry despite the rain. It would burn fast once it caught. "How do we stop them?" "We don't let 'em get close." Sam moved to the other window, checked the sight lines. "But we're in a bad spot. We got 3 walls covered, but that back wall's got no window. They come at us from there, we won't see 'em till it's too late." "So what do we do?" Sam looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "You're gonna watch the back. If you hear anything at all, you shoot through the wall. Stone won't stop a bullet at close range." "How will I know where to shoot?" "You'll know. Trust your gut." He pressed extra cartridges into her hand. "And Mary, if it comes down to it, if they get inside, you run. Don't try to fight, just run and don't look back. Find John. He'll know what to do. I'm not leaving you." "You will if I tell you to. That's an order." Before Mary could argue, gunfire erupted again. Different this time. Controlled. Measured. They were laying down suppressing fire while someone tried something else. Sam fired back rapid shots through the window. "Movement on the left. 2 of them." Mary swung her rifle around, saw shapes darting between rocks. She fired once, twice. Didn't hit anything, but the shots made them duck for cover. "Good." Sam reloaded without taking his eyes off his sector. "Keep 'em honest." The exchange went on for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Shot and countershot. Duck and fire. The acrid smell of gunpowder filled the shack, made Mary's eyes water. Her ears rang from the concussions. Then she heard it. A sound from the back wall. Scraping, like someone dragging something across stone. "Sam?" "I hear it. Get ready." Mary turned, faced the blank wall. Her hands shook. She forced them steady. Listened, scraping. Closer now. Right on the other side of the wall. Then a new sound. Liquid splashing, and a smell. "Kerosene!" Sam shouted. "They're gonna burn us out!" "Mary, shoot through that wall! Now!" She fired. Once, twice, 3 times. The bullets punched through stone and wood, and on the other side, someone screamed. A man's voice, high and panicked. The splashing sound stopped. "Got him," Sam said. "But they'll try again. Watch for—" The front door exploded inward, not from bullets, from a battering ram. 2 men had rushed it while they were distracted, hit it with a timber beam. The crossbar cracked. The door swung wide. Sam spun, fired point blank into the opening. 1 man went down. The other ducked back, but the damage was done. The door was open. "Mary, run." But Mary wasn't running. She was moving forward, rifle up, firing into the doorway, keeping them back while Sam repositioned. The rifle kicked against her shoulder. She worked the lever, fired again. Again. Then it clicked empty. She stared at it stupidly for a second. Sam was shouting something, but she couldn't hear over the ringing in her ears. A shape filled the doorway. Dutch Henderson, his face twisted with pain and rage, his wounded arm hanging useless, but his good hand bringing up a pistol. Time slowed down. Mary saw the barrel swing toward her, saw Dutch's finger tighten on the trigger. Couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The gunshot was deafening. Dutch staggered backward, a red flower blooming on his chest. He looked down at it confused, then crumpled. Behind him stood John Carter. Soaked to the bone, his rifle still smoking his face like carved granite. He stepped over Dutch's body into the shack. "You two all right?" Mary couldn't speak, could only nod. "How?" Sam started. "Heard the shooting from 2 miles out. Figured you could use help." John moved to the window, checked outside. "How many left?" 4. Maybe 5. Drayton's still out there." "Good." John's voice was cold. "I got some things to say to him." He stepped into the doorway, rifle cradled loose in his arms. Stood there like he was waiting for a bus, not like he was standing in the middle of a gunfight. Rain drummed on his hat. "Drayton?" he called out. "You wanted me. Here I am. Let's finish this." For a long moment, nothing. Then Hank's voice, wary now. "Carter, should have known you'd turn up." "Yeah, you should have. Now here's how this goes. You got two choices. You can ride away right now and take your chances with the law, or you can try to take this shack and die in the mud like the dogs you are. There's 4 of us and 3 of you. I can count Drayton. Question is, which 4 of you want to die first?" John's voice dropped, went quiet, and deadly. "Because I promise you this. You keep coming. I will kill every last one of you. And I'll save you for last, so you can watch." Silence stretched. Mary could almost hear Hank thinking, weighing his options. His men would be thinking too, wondering if it was worth dying for his grudge. "This ain't over, Carter." "Yeah, it is. You just don't know it yet." John raised his voice. "Rest of you. Any man who rides away right now gets a pass. Stay with Drayton, and you'll hang for murder and attempted murder of a federal officer. Your choice." More silence. Then the sound of a horse moving. Then another. Through the rain, Mary saw 2 riders peeling away from the group heading back toward town. Then a third. "Cowards!" Hank screamed after them. "Yellow-bellied cowards!" But they didn't stop, didn't look back. Now it was just Hank. And Tom Garrett, still loyal or still stupid enough to stay. "2 against 3, John called out. "And we got cover. You sure you want to do this?" No answer, just the rain and the wind. Then John said, "I'm walking out there. Don't shoot me, Sam." "Are you crazy?" Sam hissed. "He'll gun you down." "No, he won't. He wants to look me in the eye when he does it. Man like Drayton, he needs that." John glanced back at Mary. "If something happens, you run. You hear me? You run and don't stop." "John, don't." But he was already walking, out into the rain, rifle held loose at his side, moving toward where Hank waited on his horse. Mary rushed to the window. Sam tried to pull her back, but she shook him off. She had to see, had to know. John stopped 20 feet from Hank. The 2 men stared at each other across the rain and mud. Tom Garrett sat his horse off to the side, his hand hovering over his gun, nervous as a cat. "Well," John said, "this is what you wanted, ain't it? Me standing here? So say what you got to say." Hank's face was a mask of fury barely contained. "You cost me everything. My house, my men, my reputation. No, you cost yourself all that when you tried to murder a 17-year-old girl for her land." John's voice was steady. "Everything that's happened since is on you. That land is mine. Sarah signed. Sarah signed nothing, and you know it. You forged that will. Just like you've been lying about everything else." John took a step closer. "I met men like you in the war, Drayton. Men who thought the rules didn't apply to them. Thought they could take what they wanted and nobody would stop them. You know what happened to those men?" "What?" "They died. Usually badly. Usually alone." Another step. "That's your future. A bullet or a rope. Only question is when." Hank's hand moved toward his gun. "Maybe I shoot you right now and change that future." "You could try, but Tom there would have to shoot the marshal. You really think he's got the stomach for that, for killing a federal officer? That's a hanging offense and everyone knows it." Tom shifted in his saddle. His face had gone pale. "Mr. Drayton, maybe we should—" "Shut up, Tom." "But he's right. We kill a marshal, they'll hunt us to the ends of the earth. They'll—" I said shut up. But the damage was done. The doubt had crept in. Mary could see it in Tom's face, in the way he edged his horse backward. He'd already lost. He just didn't want to admit it yet. John saw it too. "Last chance, Tom. Ride away. Tell the sheriff what really happened. Maybe they go easy on you." Tom looked at Hank, then at John, then at the body of Dutch Henderson lying in the doorway of the shack. He turned his horse and rode. "Tom!" Hank screamed. "Tom, you get back here, Tom!" But Tom was gone, swallowed by the rain. Now it was just Hank and John. Alone. "Looks like it's just you and me," John said quietly. "So let's talk about Mary, about what you did to her, about the chain in the desert and all the rest of it." "That girl is a liar." "No, you're a liar, and a coward, and a man who tried to murder a child for money." John's voice was hard as iron. "I should kill you right now. World would be better for it." "Then do it." Hank's hand moved to his gun. "Draw, old man. Let's see who's faster." For a moment, Mary thought John would do it. She could see the tension in his shoulders the way his hand tightened on his rifle. One shot and it would be over. Hank dead in the mud and Mary free. But John didn't shoot. "No," he said. "I ain't giving you that. You want to die like a gunfighter, go somewhere else. You're going to trial. You're going to stand in front of a judge and hear every crime you committed read out loud. Then you're going to hang legal." He raised his voice. "Sam, get out here." Sam emerged from the shack, his rifle trained on Hank. "Hank Drayton, you're under arrest for attempted murder, fraud, assault, and about 6 other crimes I'll think of on the way to jail. Put your hands up." Hank's face went through a dozen expressions. Rage, fear, desperation. His hand was still on his gun. Mary could see him calculating, trying to figure if he could beat them both. "Don't," John said quietly. "Whatever you're thinking, don't. Because I will drop you where you stand and sleep just fine tonight." Hank's hand moved. John's rifle came up. Everything froze. Then slowly Hank raised his hands. His face was blank empty. Whatever had been driving him, greed, rage, madness, it had burned out, leaving nothing behind but ash. "Good choice," Sam said. He moved forward, grabbed Hank's gun from his holster, tossed it away, then pulled out iron shackles. "You got the right to remain silent. But honestly, Drayton, I hope you talk. I hope you confess to everything. Because I want to see you hang." He cuffed Hank's hands behind his back, pulled him down from his horse. Hank stumbled, fell to his knees in the mud. For a moment he knelt there, head bowed, a broken man. Then he looked up at Mary, standing in the doorway of the shack. And his eyes, Lord help her. His eyes were full of hate, so pure it made her step backward. "This ain't over," he said. His voice was low, venomous. "I'll get out. And when I do, I'm coming for you. I'll find you wherever you hide. And I'll—" John stepped forward and backhanded him across the face. Hank's head snapped to the side. Blood flew from his split lip. "Shut up," John said. "You're done talking. You're done hurting people. You're just done." He looked at Sam. "Get him out of my sight before I forget I'm a civilized man." Sam hauled Hank to his feet, shoved him toward his horse. "Mount up. You try to run, I shoot you in the back and claim you were escaping. Nobody will question it." Hank mounted awkward with his hands cuffed. Sam tied the reins to his own saddle, making Hank's horse follow. Then he looked at John and Mary. "You two coming?" "In a minute," John said. "Got some things to take care of first." Sam nodded, understanding. He started riding, leading Hank's horse behind him. Within minutes, they disappeared into the rain. John turned to Mary. She was shaking, had been shaking since the shooting stopped, and the adrenaline started to fade. Now it hit her all at once. Everything that had happened, everything that could have happened. "Come here," John said gently. She went to him. He put his arms around her, and she collapsed against his chest, finally letting go. The tears came hot and hard, all the fear and rage and relief pouring out of her in great, wrenching sobs. "It's all right," John said, his voice rumbling in his chest. "You're safe. It's over. He's going to come back. He said a lot of things. None of them will matter from a jail cell." John held her at arm's length, looked her in the eye. "Listen to me. Hank Drayton is done. Sam's got him dead to rights. The witnesses, the evidence, your testimony. He's gonna hang Mary, and you're gonna get your ranch back, your life back. What if he escapes? What if—" "He won't, And even if he did, John's eyes were hard. He'd have to go through me to get to you, and that ain't happening. Mary wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, tried to pull herself together. I'm sorry. I shouldn't. Don't you apologize for feeling things. You earned those tears. You earned the right to break down. He picked up her rifle, handed it to her. But now you gotta put yourself back together, because we got a long ride ahead of us and work to do. Work. Getting your ranch back, rebuilding, starting over. He smiled slightly. Thought maybe I'd help with that, if you'll have me. Mary stared at him. You want to stay? Help me run the ranch. If you'll have me, he said again. I got nowhere else to be, and you're gonna need help. Land don't work itself. Fresh tears threatened, but Mary blinked them back. I'd like that. I'd like that a lot. Good. Then let's get moving. We got a lot of daylight to burn. They gathered their gear, checked the horses, and started riding. The rain had stopped, and the sun was breaking through the clouds, turning everything gold. Steam rose from the ground. The whole world looked new, washed clean. Mary rode beside John in comfortable silence. Behind them, the line shack grew smaller. Ahead, somewhere past the horizon, was her ranch, her home, her future. For the first time since her mama died, that future didn't look dark. It looked possible. They rode through the afternoon and into evening, taking their time. There was no rush anymore. No one chasing them. No one trying to kill them. Just the open road and the sky and the promise of tomorrow. When they finally stopped to make camp, the stars were out. John built a fire and made coffee while Mary tended the horses. They ate dried meat and hardtack in silence, too tired for conversation. But it was a good tired, the kind that came from surviving, from winning. John, Mary said finally. Yeah. Thank you. For everything. For saving my life. For... She struggled to find the words. For not giving up on me. Didn't save you, Mary. You saved yourself. He poked at the fire. I just gave you a chance. What you did with it, that was all you. Mary thought about the fire poker. About standing up to Hank. About shooting through the wall of the line shack. About every moment when she could have given up and chose to fight instead. Maybe, she said, but I couldn't have done it alone. Nobody does anything alone. That's the secret everyone tries to forget. John looked at her across the fire. We need each other. That's what makes us human. That's what makes us strong. They sat in silence, watching the fire burn down to embers. Above them, the stars wheeled slowly across the sky. Somewhere out there, Hank Drayton sat in a jail cell. Somewhere out there, Mary's ranch waited. Somewhere out there, life was waiting to begin again. And for the first time in a long time, Mary Hale wasn't afraid of it. She was ready. They reached Sam Crawford's ranch by mid-morning the next day. Martha was on the porch before they'd even dismounted, wiping her hands on her apron, her face breaking into a relieved smile. Thank the Lord, she said, pulling Mary into a hug. Sam sent word ahead. Said you were coming. Said it was over. It's over, Mary confirmed, though saying the words out loud still felt strange, like testing ice to see if it would hold her weight. Hank's in custody, John added. Sam's taking him to Santa Fe, federal courthouse. They'll try him there. Martha nodded, satisfied. Good. That man deserves everything coming to him. She looked Mary up and down. You look half-dead, child. When's the last time you slept proper? I don't remember. That's what I thought. Come inside, both of you. Food first, then rest. She started herding them toward the house like a mother hen with chicks. And don't you dare argue with me, John Carter. I've known you too long. They didn't argue. Inside the house smelled like fresh bread and coffee. Martha sat them down and put food in front of them, real food, hot and plentiful. Mary ate until her stomach ached, until she couldn't take another bite. Then Martha showed her to a room with a real bed and clean sheets, and Mary slept for 14 hours straight. When she woke, it was late afternoon the next day. She lay there for a moment disoriented, trying to remember where she was. Then it all came back. The fight. The arrest. The long ride. The fact that Hank Drayton was finally behind bars. She got up dressed in the clean clothes Martha had left folded on a chair and made her way to the kitchen. John was at the table with Sam, who must have returned while she slept. Papers were spread between them. "There she is," Sam said, looking up. "Feel better?" "Yes, sir, thank you." "Good, because we got business to discuss." He gestured to the papers. "Got word from the district judge this morning. He's agreed to hear the case against Drayton within the month. Want you there to testify." Mary's stomach clenched. In court? In front of everyone? In front of a judge and jury? Yes. But also in front of everyone who needs to hear the truth. Sam's voice was gentle but firm. "I know it's hard, but your testimony is the linchpin. Without it, Drayton's lawyers will claim everything was a misunderstanding, that he was just trying to help a troubled girl. He'll lie. Of course he will. That's why your truth has to be stronger than his lies." Sam leaned forward. "Mary, I've seen a lot of trials, and I've learned one thing: juries can smell the truth. They might not always want to believe it, but they know it when they hear it. You get up there and tell your story straight, no embellishments, just the facts, they'll believe you. What if they don't? Then we got Plan B, the witnesses, the physical evidence, the testimony from the doctor who examined your wounds, the statements from your mama's friends." Sam tapped the papers. "We got enough to bury him twice over. Your testimony just makes it certain." John, who'd been quiet up to now, said, "You don't have to do this alone, Mary. I'll be right there. Sam will be there. Martha will be there. Half the town will be there, I expect. The other half will be there rooting for Hank. Let 'em root. They'll be rooting for a guilty man." John's eyes were steady. "Question is, are you ready to face him, to look him in the eye, and tell the truth about what he did?" Mary thought about the chain, the desert sun, the way Hank had smiled when he'd hit her, the years of fear and manipulation and pain. "I'm ready," she said. The month before the trial passed in a strange blur of activity and waiting. Sam made the arrangements. John helped Mary prepare her testimony, going over the events again and again, until she could recite them without shaking. Martha made sure she ate, slept, and didn't work herself into a state. And slowly as the days passed, Mary began to feel something shift inside her. The fear was still there. It would probably always be there, but it wasn't the only thing anymore. There was anger too. Clean, righteous anger at what had been stolen from her. At the lies Hank had told. At the life she should have had. That anger gave her strength. 2 weeks before the trial, Sam took Mary and John to see the ranch. Her ranch. The one Hank had tried to steal. They rode up the familiar road, and Mary's heart clenched. The house looked abandoned. Windows dark. Weeds growing up around the porch. The corrals empty. It looked like a place where life had stopped. "It ain't much to look at right now," Sam said. "But it's yours." Judge issued a preliminary injunction. Froze all of Drayton's assets pending trial. That includes this place. Mary dismounted, walked slowly to the porch. The door hung open. Inside, everything was covered in dust, furniture overturned. Her mama's things scattered like they didn't matter. She walked from room to room, touching walls, remembering. Here was the kitchen where Mama had taught her to bake. Here was the sitting room where they'd read together on winter evenings. Here was her old bedroom, the bed still made with the quilt Mama had sewn. In her Mama's room, Mary stopped. The bed was stripped bare. Hank's clothes were gone from the wardrobe, but on the dresser, half hidden under a layer of dust, was a photograph in a silver frame. Mary picked it up, wiped it clean. Her Mama smiled out at her from the picture, young and beautiful and alive. Beside her stood Mary's real father, tall and proud. and between them a little girl with pigtails and a gap-toothed grin. Mary herself, maybe 5 years old, before the world got complicated. "You all right?" John's voice came from the doorway. I forgot what she looked like when she smiled. Before the sickness. Mary traced her mama's face with one finger. She was happy once. We all were. You'll be happy again. Different maybe, but happy. John came to stand beside her. This place just needs some work, some life breathed back into it. Will you help me after the trial? Already told you I would. I'm a man of my word. They walked back outside together. Sam was waiting by the horses, looking out over the land. 300 acres of good grazing land, a creek that ran year-round soil that would grow anything you planted in it. It's a good place, Sam said. Your mama knew what she had. That's why Drayton wanted it so bad. He can't have it, Mary said. The words came out fierce, absolute. It's mine, and I'm taking it back. The day of the trial dawned clear and hot. Sam had arranged for them to stay in Santa Fe the night before in a hotel near the courthouse. Mary barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Hank's face, heard his voice promising revenge. But when morning came, she got up, put on the new dress Martha had made for her, simple, modest, respectable, pinned her hair up like Mama used to wear hers, looked at herself in the mirror, and barely recognized the girl looking back. She looked older, harder, like someone who'd been through fire and come out changed. Ready. John knocked on her door. As I'll ever be. They walked to the courthouse together, Sam on one side, John on the other. Martha followed behind, carrying a basket of food in case the trial ran long. A crowd had already gathered on the steps. Mary recognized some faces from town. Others were strangers drawn by the spectacle. Inside the courtroom was packed, every seat taken, people standing in the back. The air was thick with heat and anticipation, and the smell of too many bodies in one space. At the front behind a heavy table sat Hank Drayton. Mary's breath caught. He looked different, thinner. His face had a gray cast to it, like something had died inside him. The bruises from their fight had faded to yellow-green. He wore a clean suit, and his hands were folded on the table in front of him, the picture of calm respectability. But when his eyes found Mary, they were the same. Cold, hateful, promising pain. She didn't look away. Held his gaze until he was the one who dropped his eyes. First point to her. The judge entered, an old man with a face like weathered leather and eyes that missed nothing. Everyone stood. He banged his gavel, and the trial began. The prosecutor was a thin man named Harrison, with a voice like a whip crack. He laid out the case, methodical, building it piece by piece. The forged will. The testimony of witnesses who swore Sarah Hale had never signed such a document. The evidence of abuse. The chain found in the desert with Mary's blood on it. Hank's lawyer, a smooth-talking man from back east, tried to poke holes. Suggested the will was legitimate and the witnesses were mistaken. Suggested Mary had hurt herself for attention. Suggested the chain was planted evidence. But Harrison was ready for every objection. He produced the doctor's testimony about Mary's wounds. Produced Mrs. Henderson, who testified tearfully about Sarah's last wishes. Produced the blacksmith who'd examined the chain and confirmed it matched shackles Hank had bought 6 months earlier. The evidence piled up like stones on a cairn. Then Harrison called Mary to the stand. The walk to the witness box felt like a mile. Every eye in the room followed her. She could hear whispers, feel the weight of judgment and curiosity. Her legs shook. Her hands were slick with sweat. But she made it, sat down, placed her hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth. Then she looked out at the courtroom and found John's face in the crowd. He nodded once. You can do this. Harrison approached. Please state your name for the record. Mary Elizabeth Hale. And your age. 17. Miss Hale, would you tell the court about your relationship with the defendant Hank Drayton? Mary took a breath. Let it out slow. Then she told them. She told them about her mother's death, about Hank's drinking, about the will that appeared out of nowhere, about the beatings when she questioned it, about the ultimatum marry him or sign over the ranch. She told them about refusing, about being dragged into the desert, about the chain and the sun and the certainty that she was going to die. She told them about John finding her, about Hank's men attacking, about everything that had happened after. Her voice shook at times. She had to stop twice to compose herself, but she got through it. Every word, every detail. When she finished, the courtroom was silent. Harrison nodded. "Thank you, Miss Hale. No further questions." Then Hank's lawyer stood up. He was smiling, but it was the smile of a snake before it strikes. "Miss Hale," he said, his voice dripping false sympathy. "This must be very difficult for you, losing your mother at such a young age." It was. And grief can do strange things to a person's mind, can't it? Make them see things that aren't there. Remember things that didn't happen. I'm not crazy. I didn't say you were. But you were under tremendous stress. Your mother dying. Your stepfather trying to manage an estate he didn't understand. It would be natural for a young girl to feel confused. I'm not confused. I know what happened. Do you? Because according to my client, you were the one who hurt yourself. You were the one who ran away and then made up these stories to justify it. The lawyer's voice hardened. Isn't it true that you hated Mr. Drayton? That you blamed him for your mother's death? No. I blamed the sickness for Mama's death. I blamed Hank for trying to steal what she left me. Or perhaps you simply couldn't accept that your mother chose to leave everything to her husband as was proper. Perhaps you invented this entire fantasy to objection. Harrison was on his feet. Counsel is badgering the witness. Sustained. The judge looked at Hank's lawyer. Get to your point. My point, Your Honor, is that we have a troubled young woman who has made serious accusations against a man who was only trying to help her. He turned back to Mary. Miss Hale, isn't it true that you've been known to hurt yourself in the past, that you've shown signs of emotional instability? No. Then how do you explain the testimony of Dr. Carlson, who treated you for injuries Hank gave me? Mary's voice rose. Every time I went to that doctor, it was because Hank hit me or pushed me or she stopped fighting for control. I never hurt myself. I never lied. Everything I've said here is the truth. The truth according to you. The truth according to what happened. The lawyer smiled. No further questions. Mary stepped down. Her legs were shaking so bad she could barely walk. John met her at the gate, put a steadying hand on her elbow, guided her back to her seat. You did good, he whispered. Real good. But Mary didn't feel good. She felt stripped raw, like all her wounds had been opened up for everyone to see. She wanted to run, wanted to hide, wanted to be anywhere but here. But she stayed, because running wouldn't change anything. The trial went on. More witnesses, more evidence. Hank took the stand and told his version that Mary was disturbed, that he'd tried to help her, that everything that had happened was a tragic misunderstanding. He was good. Mary had to give him that. He looked sincere, sounded sincere. If she hadn't lived through it, she might have believed him herself. But the jury had heard Mary's testimony, had seen her scars, had listened to the witnesses who'd known Sarah Hale, and knew she'd never have left her daughter with nothing. When both sides rested, the judge gave his instructions and the jury filed out to deliberate. The wait was agony. Mary sat with John and Sam and Martha in a room off the main hall. Nobody talked much. What was there to say? It was out of their hands now. 12 strangers would decide whether Mary got her life back or whether Hank walked free. After 3 hours, word came. The jury had reached a verdict. They filed back into the courtroom. Mary's heart hammered so hard she thought everyone could hear it. She gripped John's hand on one side, Martha's on the other. The foreman stood. An older man, weathered with the look of someone who'd worked hard all his life. Have you reached a verdict? The judge asked. We have, Your Honor. On the charge of fraud, how do you find? Guilty. Mary's breath caught. On the charge of attempted murder. Guilty. On the charge of assault. Guilty. The foreman kept reading. Guilty. 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 Every charge, every crime, every sin laid bare and judged and found wanting. When he finished, Hank was still sitting at his table, unmoving. His lawyer was saying something, but Hank didn't seem to hear him. He just stared straight ahead, his face blank. The judge banged his gavel. Mr. Drayton, you have been found guilty on all counts. Sentencing will be held 1 week from today, but I can tell you now you will hang for what you've done. And may God have mercy on your soul because this court has none. The room erupted. People talking, shouting, some crying. Mary sat frozen, unable to process what she'd just heard. It was over. Really, truly over. Sam was hugging her, saying something about justice. Martha was crying happy tears. John just squeezed her hand and smiled. And across the room, as the guards came to take him away, Hank Drayton looked at Mary one last time. His face was still blank. Empty. Whatever fire had driven him had finally burned out. He opened his mouth like he was going to say something, then closed it, turned away. Mary never saw him again. The weeks that followed were a blur of paperwork and legal proceedings. The ranch was officially returned to Mary's name. Hank's possessions were sold at auction to pay his debts and court costs. The money went to Mary, though she didn't want it, didn't want anything that had been his. She used it to repair the ranch, to hire workers, to buy new stock. John stayed on as her foreman, helping rebuild what had been lost. He moved into the small house on the east side of the property, close enough to help, far enough to be proper. They worked from dawn to dusk, clearing weeds, mending fences, bringing the land back to life. Slowly, the ranch began to breathe again. Mrs. Henderson came by once a week with food and gossip from town. The Garcias came back to work the land like they had when Mary's mama was alive. Pastor William stopped in to check on her soul and stayed to help fix the barn roof. Life found its rhythm. One evening, 6 months after the trial, Mary stood on the porch watching the sunset. The fields were green now, the corrals full of horses. Smoke rose from the chimney. Inside, John was making dinner. He'd turned out to be a decent cook, much to everyone's surprise. It looked like a home again. Mary closed her eyes, felt the warm breeze on her face. Somewhere in the distance, cattle were lowing. Closer, she could hear John humming off-key in the kitchen. "Mama," she whispered, "I did it. I got it back. Your ranch, your land, it's mine now. Really mine." The wind picked up, rustling through the grass. For just a moment, Mary could have sworn she heard laughter. Her mama's laughter, warm and proud and full of love. Then it was gone. Just the wind. But it was enough. The door opened behind her. John came out, wiping his hands on a towel. "Food's ready. You coming in?" "In a minute." He stood beside her, looking out at the land. "You did good here, Mary. Your mama would be proud." "I couldn't have done it without you." "Sure you could have. Might have taken longer, but you'd have managed." He glanced at her. "You're stronger than you think. Always have been." "I don't feel strong. Most days, I feel like I'm barely holding it together." That's what strength is. Holding together when everything wants to fall apart. Getting up every morning and doing the work even when it hurts. John's voice was gentle. "You survived things that would have broken most people. You fought back when it would have been easier to give up. And now you're building something good out of the ashes. If that ain't strength, I don't know what is." Mary thought about that. About the girl she'd been chained to a fence, begging for death. About the woman she'd become, standing on her own land, master of her own fate. They weren't the same person. The old Mary had died out there in the desert. This new Mary had been forged in fire and pain and survival. She was harder now, scarred, but she was free. "Come on," John said. "Food's getting cold, and I didn't spend an hour cooking just to watch it congeal." They went inside together, sat at the table that had been her mama's, ate food grown on land that had been her granddaddy's and was now hers. Outside, the stars came out one by one. The night grew cool. Somewhere in the darkness, an owl called. And in the kitchen of the ranch house, Mary Hale ate dinner with the man who'd saved her life and become her family. They talked about small things, what to plant in the south field, whether the new bull was worth the money, when to hire more hands for the spring work. Normal things, human things, the things that made a life. Later, after John had gone back to his house, and the dishes were washed and the lamps were lit, Mary sat at her mama's desk. She pulled out a piece of paper and a pen. Wrote slowly, thinking about each word. "Dear Mama," she began, "I know you're gone, but I need to tell you something. I need you to know that I'm okay. More than okay. I'm alive, I'm free, and I'm never going to let anyone take that away from me again." She paused, pen hovering over paper. "You told me I was stronger than I knew. You were right. I didn't believe it then, but I believe it now. Because I'm still here, still fighting, still standing." She finished the letter, folded it careful, and tucked it into a Bible that had been her mama's. Maybe someday she'd take it out and read it again. Maybe not. It didn't matter. What mattered was that she'd said it, that she'd acknowledged the truth, she'd survived. More than that, she'd won. Mary Hale stood up, stretched, and walked to the window. The ranch spread out before her in the moonlight, beautiful and scarred and hers. Tomorrow she'd wake up and work the land. The day after that, she'd do it again. And again. Building a life one day at a time, one choice at a time. Because that's what survivors did. They kept going. And Mary Hale wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was a woman who'd looked death in the eye and said no. She was a woman who'd fought for what was hers and won. She was a woman who'd been broken and forged herself back together stronger in the broken places. You don't have to be unbroken to stand tall, you just have to rise.